Hey guys, it's Sarah. Today's video is going to be my July eyeshadow roulette. If you're new to this series, it was inspired by the Pan Those Eyeshadows Project Pan that Alexandra Shoston started on YouTube. I do it a little bit differently, but it's basically where I randomly choose 5 eyeshadows from my collection using a random number generator to focus on throughout the month. I create all sorts of different looks with those shadows, and I'm not really trying to hit pan on them. I'm just trying to get use out of them and experiment with different color combos. So I'm going to go ahead and start by giving you a recap on the 5 shadows that I was focusing on in June. So the color story was very kind of purpley, which is a little out of my comfort zone because purple is actually like one of my least favorite colors to wear on my eyes. So I really did enjoy this color story. It really did push me to play around with some colors that I don't normally reach for. Earthshine from ColourPop is sort of a pinky, purpley, blue duochrome shadow. Really unique. I used this a lot actually as a topper shade. I have that e.l.f. single shadow in Soiree in my Project Pan, and so I ended up layering this on top of that shadow a couple of times. That's kind of like a mauvey purple color, and so this looked really pretty on top of that. I did that 2 or 3 times this month, I think. So that's one of the main ways that I used this. There was one time that I used this all by itself, just all over my lid, blended into my crease. It was really pretty. I didn't remember to take a picture of that. I really wish I had because it was so pretty, but that's one way that I wore this. And yeah, I really enjoyed this shadow. Before this month, I really had not used this shadow very much at all. In fact, I don't know if I had ever used it. So I was glad to get some experience with that shade. With the darkest shade in the e.l.f. Rosewater Quad, this shade is no joke. Like, it is so pigmented. One of the main ways I use it is as a liner, just kind of like smoked out on my lower lash line. I will just take a smudge brush, barely tap it in there, like barely, and then I'll tap some of that off onto like my hand so that it's not too much, and then I'll go under my eyes with it. But it is, even then, it's sometimes too much. So I don't know how they got this shade so dark and pigmented, but it is crazy. So I have to be really careful with that, but that is the main way that I used it. I also used it as a liner on the upper lash line sometimes, just kind of like drew it on with a really like square smudge brush. This ColourPop E11 is the way that I use that. And it also gave me an excuse to use this quad more this month. I love this quad. It is like one of my current obsessions. When I wasn't in the mood for purple, I ended up wearing the burnt orange shade in the Soft Glam palette a lot, just in my crease. A lot of times I would just do that, sort of mixed with orange soda in my crease for just like a really warm, simple look. And then since I was trying to pan my Stila glitters this month, and I did successfully use them up, I'm so excited, but I would do those, and then I would tap a little bit of like Gold Goddess on my lid, or sometimes Kitten Karma, which is a rose gold. So that was kind of my go-to neutral look this month when I wasn't feeling like purpley pinks. Then we had the shade Daring from the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette. This is like a deep mauve-y taupe. I think I only maybe used this 2 or 3 times this month. When I used this, I just put it all over my lid and kind of smoked it out, and then topped that with a glitter again. I wore lots of glitters this month. And then finally, Ronnie from the Bili Beauty palette. This is like a true purple. The main time I wore this that I remember was in my last Get Ready With Me. I did a halo eye with this and Earthshine from ColourPop in the center of my lid, and that was really pretty, you know, very purple, very like not something I would normally wear, but it was really fun. And again, this is a shade in my collection that I really don't think, I either had never used it before or I'd only used it like once before. So I'm glad to have gotten some use out of that shade. That's like the one shade in this palette that I don't really reach into very much, just because I'm not a purple lover. I really like mauve-y purples, but not like this kind of cool tone purples. But yeah, overall a really fun month. I did enjoy those colors quite a bit. I'm also excited to choose some new shadows to focus on in July. Again, if you're new to this series, you'll notice I'm not wearing any eyeshadow on my eyes, so once we've chosen 5 new shadows, I'm going to attempt to create a look with all 5 of them. So that is that's gonna be like the second half of this video. Okay, so for July, I'm gonna pick 4 of the shadows like normal, but I did just get a new palette in the mail that I'm really excited about. It's the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. I got it on sale for less than $30, including like tax and shipping. I think it was like $29, whereas this is normally a $50 palette. So what a steal. I'd been eyeing this palette ever since it came out, so I just could not pass up that deal. So I thought we could go ahead and pick one shade randomly just from this palette, just so I can go ahead and start using this palette and incorporating it into the looks that I do this month. That way it'll give me permission to use this palette since I want to use it. So there are 12 shades in here, so I'll go ahead and pick a shade 1 through 12. And I got the shade 11, which is the shade HBIC. So it's this kind of metallic bronze color. I literally haven't even swatched this palette yet, so ooh, that is nice and buttery. This is my first experience with an Urban Decay eyeshadow palette. I've never owned one before, but there's that shade, so that'll be one of the 5 shades. And then we'll go ahead and pick the other 4 shades randomly from my collection, and we'll include this palette in the list as well, just in case another one comes up, but we'll just go ahead and select those like normal. So I've gone ahead and taken out any shadows that have been chosen in any previous months, and any shadows that are currently in my project pan, which now there's just one, and I added in all of the rest of the Urban Decay Naked Honey shades. So we are left with 156 different eyeshadows to choose from. So let's go ahead and pick some. I got 149, which actually is also another one from the Urban Decay palette. That is the shade Amber, which is another kind of warm bronzy color. It's even a little bit warmer than HBIC, that shade right there. Those 2 shades are actually quite similar. Amber is just a little bit warmer than HBIC. So far shaping up to be a very warm bronzy set of colors. Let's pick another one. Got 86. That is from the Profusion Spectrum palette, which is a very bright, colorful palette, and it's the shade Marigold. Okay, I'm excited. This is a bright yellow, which actually there's not a shade like this in the Naked Honey palette, but I do think that this is going to be very complementary to any Naked Honey shades. So there's that shadow, very yellow. I love yellow eyeshadow. It's actually one of my favorite colors of eyeshadow. That is only the 2nd shade in this palette to be chosen in my eyeshadow roulette ever. The only other shade out of here that I've had in my roulette before is Peacock, which is that kind of turquoise color. All right, I got 118. That is from the e.l.f. New Classics palette in the shade Cosmo. It makes me think of Cosmo Kramer every time. So that is just this light pink shadow, beautiful, my kind of just everyday lid shade. So there's that, very simple. All right, and then our 5th and last shade is going to be 54. That is from the Norvina palette in the shade Passion. Okay, that's this shade right here. It's this deep matte burgundy color. Not really sure what to think of that. Okay, kind of a sloppy swatch. Okay, so 4 palettes are represented here. Really excited to have gotten a 2nd shade from the Naked Honey palette. It's funny that those 2 shades are so similar. I have no doubt that I'll be playing with this palette a lot this month anyway, so that'll be good. Definitely kind of a weird mix. I feel like these 3 shades go together really well, and those 2 shades go together really well, but all together they're a little different, a little weird. So let's go ahead and start putting these on my eyeballs. Part of me wants to put the yellow all over the lid, but then I'm like, well then what am I gonna do with like all these metallic shades? So I'm sure there will be some times this month where I do put the yellow all over the lid, but for now, I'm gonna put that in my crease just to start out. Just because it's the only like lighter matte color that could work as like a transition shade here, so I'm just gonna start with that. Just see where this takes us. I don't really know. Let's go ahead and put some of HBIC on my lid. Just kind of putting that on the first like 2/3 of my lid here. The only like deep shade that got chosen was that Passion shade, the burgundy. So I am gonna tap some of that onto my outer V area. I do think that goes nicely with these bronzy tones. Then I'm gonna go back to that crease brush that I was using earlier and just kind of start blending this out. So I think now I'll tap a little bit of Amber, which is that other Naked Honey shade that was chosen, onto the center of my lid. Since it's a little bit more of a copper, whereas HBIC is more bronze. Actually, no, reverse that. HBIC is more copper. This shade is more brassy bronze. Okay, so the only shade I haven't used yet is Cosmo Kramer here from New Classics. So let me put some of that in my inner corner, and then we might do something else with it too, but there's always one shade that doesn't really get much attention, whether it's just used as an inner corner highlight or as a lower liner kind of thing. There's usually 1 out of the 5 shades that just doesn't get much of the spotlight. It's really probably not the color I would have chosen for my inner corner here, but hey, maybe I'll just dab a little bit of that on the inner like third of my lid as well, since we're layering so many shadows anyway. And blend a little bit more. Now I feel like the yellow got a little bit lost, so I'm gonna add a little bit more of that Marigold shade, just kind of peeking above everything else. There we go. She's back. Back in the game. Alright, this look is kind of crazy. It's a little messy, like there's just a lot of shades trying to compete here, I feel. I'm gonna take some more of Passion from Norvina and just add that to my lower lash line, kind of just smudge it across. While we're playing around with Naked Honey, I'm just gonna take some of Flyby here, it's this light cream color, to highlight my brow bone and also just kind of clean up the edges here. I'm just using the brush that came with the palette. I'm gonna do a little bit of eyeliner with my Jordana Cat Eye liquid liner. You know, for once in my life, I think I'm actually not going to do a wing with my black liner. I'm just gonna kind of leave it to define the upper lash line, but I'm gonna skip a wing this time. I don't think I can remember ever doing that in the last like 10 years, but here we are. So for mascara, I am going to use some of my CoverGirl Lashblast primer along with the CoverGirl Clump Crusher Extensions mascara. I've been trying out this combo. So far, I can't say, I don't know, I can't say the primer is working miracles for me. Like when I use the primer on one side and not on the other, I don't feel like it makes that big of a difference, but maybe it sort of volumizes a bit, I'm not sure. But I also have to say, I don't know if I'm loving this CoverGirl mascara. Like it's good, and it's very lengthening, but I feel like it doesn't really volumize, and I like both length and volume. I don't know. So I'm gonna let that primer set a little bit. And for the lips, I'm gonna use the lipstick that I just rolled into my project pan, the Red Apple lipstick in Beachside. I think it's a nude that I think will go really well with this eye look. That's really pretty, I love that color. See what I mean? Like my lashes look super long, but they're not very, like from far away, they don't really stand out that much. Okay, I like it. It's very warm, very warm. That yellow really warms it up a lot, but I feel like this look really kind of screams summer, you know? It's a lot of kind of sunset colors. I'm excited especially about that yellow shade. I love yellow eyeshadow. I also think that goes so well with the Naked Honey palette. That's kind of like the one shade I sort of wish the Naked Honey had, was like a matte bright yellow. So I think that that will be very complementary to that palette. But yeah, this was really fun. As always, I always love filming these videos. I always love picking new shades for the month. It's just so exciting because you never know what you're gonna get. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I do these videos monthly, so definitely make sure you subscribe, and I will talk to you very soon in my next video. Bye.